When young X, the son of Elon Musk, poses an unexpected question to Pope Francis, the profound response reshapes Musk's perspective on faith, science, and humanity forever. The grand halls of the Vatican glowed with golden light, reflecting off ornate walls adorned with centuries of history. The faint echo of footsteps blended with the hushed murmurs of a select audience privileged to witness this extraordinary gathering. At the heart of the event was an unprecedented meeting between Pope Francis and Elon Musk, a summit aimed at exploring shared concerns about technology, ethics, and humanity's future. Musk, the renowned entrepreneur and innovator, was no stranger to the spotlight, but today he appeared more introspective, lost in quiet contemplation. Yet the true surprise of the day wasn't Musk himself but his young son, XAA Sweet, affectionately called X by his family. At 5 years old, X displayed a remarkable curiosity about the world, a childlike wonder amplified by his exposure to scientific discovery, engineering brilliance, and philosophical debates that often filled his household. He stood silently beside his father, eyes wide, absorbing every detail. As the guests took their seats, Pope Francis entered the room, radiating a warm humility and compassion that endeared him to millions worldwide. His robes swayed gently as he approached Musk, greeting him with genuine warmth and a firm handshake. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Musk," the Pope said softly, his voice gentle yet steady. "Your work has shaped our world, but today, let us speak not only of technology but of the soul." Musk nodded respectfully. "I appreciate your openness, Your Holiness. These are questions I grapple with every day." After the formalities, a moderated dialogue began. The conversation quickly deepened, touching on artificial intelligence, human ethics, the search for meaning beyond the physical, and the balance between innovation and moral responsibility. Musk was characteristically sharp yet humble, asking insightful questions that revealed genuine curiosity rather than arrogance. Pope Francis responded thoughtfully, drawing from a lifetime of spiritual inquiry and moral leadership. But midway through the discussion, something unexpected happened. X, who had been quietly observing, gently tugged at his father's sleeve. Musk looked down, slightly surprised. "Yes, X. I have a question too," X whispered, shy but determined. Musk hesitated briefly, casting an apologetic glance at the Pope, but Francis smiled warmly and gestured kindly. "Let the child speak. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the smallest among us." Encouraged by the Pope's kindness, X stepped forward. The room held its breath, captivated by the sight of the boy standing before two towering figures from vastly different worlds, one a spiritual leader to billions, the other a technological visionary whose inventions shaped the future. "Your Holiness," X began softly, his voice trembling slightly but resolute, "my dad tells me a lot about science. He says understanding the universe gives our life meaning. But can someone who believes in science also believe in God? Can both beliefs be true?" A profound silence enveloped the room as everyone quietly pondered the weight of X's innocent yet deep question. Musk's breath caught in his throat, a subtle tension crossing his face. For years, his public persona had sidestepped religion, often emphasizing science and rationality as the path to truth. Now, his son's earnest inquiry distilled into a few words the inner struggle Musk had faced in private. Pope Francis paused briefly, clearly moved by the child's sincerity. When he finally spoke, his tone was gentle but authoritative. "My dear boy," Francis began, meeting X's gaze directly, "your question is both beautiful and significant. Many see faith and science as enemies, each trying to disprove the other. But in truth, science and faith are two wings of the same bird. Science teaches us how the universe works, faith teaches us why it matters." Francis continued, his voice growing stronger as the room listened intently. "Scientists uncover the beauty of creation, stars born billions of years ago. Atoms working in harmony, cells giving life to every being. Yet faith reveals a deeper purpose behind this harmony, love and meaning. Science opens our eyes to wonder, faith gives meaning to that wonder we see." He paused again, then looked directly at Musk. "Your father, Mr. Musk, has given the world incredible gifts through science. His rockets explore new worlds, his inventions connect humanity. But these gifts also raise questions. Why are we here? Why do we yearn? Science alone cannot fully answer these. The heart seeks something more. Musk felt something shift within him. He glanced at his son, who was still watching the Pope intently, absorbing every word. It was as if Francis had gently reached into Musk's heart, touching parts he'd hidden even from himself. The Pope leaned forward slightly, his voice soft and intimate. Here's what I'll tell you, young X, you never need to choose between your mind and your heart. God gave us both reason and faith. Together, they bring us closer to understanding that we are deeply loved, that our existence matters. X smiled shyly, visibly relieved but still thoughtful. He stepped back, instinctively reaching for his father's hand. Musk's fingers gently squeezed his son's, his eyes shimmering with emotion. The room exhaled softly, feeling the profound impact of the exchange. The dialogue continued, but Musk grew quieter, more reflective. He responded to the Pope's questions thoughtfully, but his usual air of unshakable confidence softened. Something inside him had stirred, a door long closed had begun to open. As the event concluded, Musk approached Pope Francis and shook his hand warmly. "Thank you," Musk said quietly, his voice unusually subdued. "What you said to my son today, I needed to hear it as much as he did." Francis smiled kindly, placing a gentle hand on Musk's shoulder. "Your heart has always been open, Mr. Musk, even if you didn't fully realize it. Your son's honesty reveals the purity of your own soul. Never fear seeking both truth and meaning, they are not separate paths but one." Musk nodded slowly, deeply absorbing the Pope's wisdom. As they turned to leave, Musk felt his heart strangely lighter yet profoundly fuller. He looked at X, who walked beside him in silence, lost in thought. "Dad," X suddenly asked, glancing up at him, "do you think I helped you understand something important today?" Musk smiled tenderly, squeezing his son's hand. "Yes, X," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion, "more than you'll ever know." As father and son walked together through the grand halls, Musk realized that today's exchange with Pope Francis had subtly altered the trajectory of his life, bridging the worlds of science and spirituality in a way he'd never anticipated. Yet even as Musk reflected, he knew their journey was just beginning. The questions his son boldly asked echoed far beyond that room, igniting a deeper exploration within himself. Little did Musk realize, this quiet, heartfelt moment had already rippled outward, destined to inspire millions like him seeking to reconcile their rational minds with their deepest spiritual questions. Their story was only beginning. In the days following the Vatican meeting, Elon Musk underwent a profound transformation. Returning to the frenetic pace of his usual life, board meetings, groundbreaking technological advancements, and ambitious plans for humanity, he sensed a fundamental shift. It wasn't an overnight upheaval but a subtle change in how he perceived the world. Yet the most significant impact wasn't immediately apparent to Elon himself, it became evident through his interactions with X. Their conversations, already deep and often complex, began to carry an added layer of emotional honesty and spiritual curiosity. Elon found himself repeatedly reflecting on Pope Francis's gentle words, contemplating the intersection of science and spirituality. One evening, a few days after returning home, Elon sat in his study, surrounded by blueprints, stacks of scientific reports, and glowing screens filled with calculations. But his mind drifted from equations and engineering, lingering instead on the exchange between X and Pope Francis. Lost in thought, he didn't notice X enter the room. "Dad?" X's soft voice broke through Elon's reverie. Startled slightly, Elon turned, smiling warmly at his son. "Hey, X. Everything okay?" X nodded, stepping closer, his eyes wide with the innocence and sincerity that always touched Elon's heart. "I can't stop thinking about what Pope Francis said about science and God. It makes sense, but I still have questions." Elon patted the seat beside him gently. "Tell me what's on your mind." X hesitated briefly, gathering his thoughts before speaking. If science can explain everything, like where stars come from, how gravity works, or even how our brains function, why do we need God? Isn't believing in God just a way to explain what we can't understand? Elon paused, reflecting, struck by how deeply philosophical his son had become. X wasn't merely echoing common doubts about religion, he was genuinely grappling with profound existential questions, seeking truth rather than easy answers. Elon considered his response carefully before speaking, choosing honesty over comfort. You know, Elon began, his voice calm, I used to think exactly the way you're describing. It seemed like science had all the answers, or at least the potential to find them. But lately, especially after meeting Pope Francis, I'm starting to see that some questions science can't fully answer. X tilted his head, intrigued but still slightly puzzled. Like what? Elon gave a faint smile, wrapping an arm around X's shoulders. Questions like why we're here at all. Science can explain how we exist, but it often struggles with the why. X's expression shifted, his eyes searching his father's face for more clarity. But you've always told me that asking why is what science does. Elon nodded gently. You're right. Science does ask why, but there are different kinds of why questions. For example, science can tell us why planets orbit stars, that's gravity. But it struggles with questions like why love feels so powerful or why helping others brings us such deep joy. Those answers might come from something deeper, maybe even spiritual. X stared thoughtfully at the floor, absorbing his father's words. So, do you think God exists? Elon took a deep breath, feeling the profound weight of his son's earnest question. Honestly, X, I'm not sure. I've spent my life seeking truth through logic and reason, through rockets and equations. I've always believed in evidence and proof. But meeting Pope Francis and hearing him explain things made me wonder if there might be something more. X sat in silence for a long moment before responding. I liked how Pope Francis talked about love and meaning. Science doesn't say much about love, does it? Elon chuckled softly, struck by the simplicity and wisdom of his son's observation. No, it doesn't. Science talks about chemical reactions and biology, but love is deeper than that. Maybe that's why we still need faith, to help us understand the things science can't touch. X smiled, visibly satisfied with his father's honest exploration. He leaned into Elon, the warmth between them a tangible reflection of the emotional bond deepening through their conversation. Dad, X said after a pause, his voice quieter, tinged with vulnerability, do you think Mom believes in God? Elon felt a sharp emotional pang at the question, briefly reflecting on the complexity of their family dynamics, where spiritual discussions had rarely arisen before. You know, I haven't asked her directly. Maybe that's something we could talk about as a family. X's eyes brightened with hope, though still uncertain. Could we? I think I'd like that. Elon squeezed his son's shoulder reassuringly. Of course we can. Family is the best place to explore these questions. The next evening at dinner, Elon kept his promise. As the family gathered around the table, a rare moment of quiet intimacy emerged amidst their typically hectic schedule. Elon gently broached the topic. X and I were discussing something important, he began, glancing warmly at his son. It's about faith, science, and what we all believe. X had some deep questions, and I thought maybe we could explore them together. Grimes. X's mother looked up with interest, a faint smile playing on her lips. Well, that sounds like quite a conversation. Where do we start? Elon leaned back thoughtfully in his chair. X asked if you believe in God at all. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Grimes smiled softly, nodding as she considered her words carefully. I believe there's something greater than what we can see or measure, not necessarily in a traditional religious sense, but I feel there's a guiding force or purpose. Music and art have always shown me there's something deeper, something spiritual. X listened intently, clearly captivated by his mother's openness. I didn't know you felt that way, Mom." She reached out gently, squeezing his hand reassuringly. "I guess we never talked about it, did we?" The family continued speaking late into the night, each sharing thoughts they had rarely voiced aloud before. Elon was deeply moved, surprised by how effortlessly these conversations flowed, opening doors to greater closeness and trust within their family. That night, as Elon tucked X into bed, he felt a newfound sense of gratitude and humility. He had built his life around innovation and ambition, but here, in the quiet moments shared with his son and family, he found a deeper meaning that surpassed rockets, electric cars, and technological breakthroughs. "Dad," X murmured sleepily, his eyes closing, "thanks for talking about this with me." Elon kissed his son's forehead tenderly. "Thank you, X. You've taught me more than you can imagine." As Elon left the room, softly closing the door, he paused in the hallway, a strange warmth spreading through his chest. It was a feeling he couldn't fully explain with logic or science, but he felt its profound truth, a sense of connection, love, and perhaps even faith, gently guiding him forward. He didn't know that these quiet conversations were just the beginning, laying the foundation for even deeper revelations yet to come. In the weeks following their family discussion, Elon Musk found himself at the crossroads of subtle but persistent inner change. He had always taken pride in logic, reason, and measurable outcomes. His career was built on breaking barriers against all odds, with a steadfast belief in humanity's ability to solve any problem through science and innovation. But ever since X posed his innocent question to Pope Francis, Elon found himself drawn to something less tangible, something that couldn't be easily distilled into equations or algorithms. This inner shift began subtly seeping into his daily life. Privately, Elon started reading texts he never imagined exploring, philosophy, theology, even poetry, now appearing on his nightstand alongside the usual stacks of technical manuals and engineering journals. Great thinkers of history, those who openly wrestled with faith, doubt, and existence, became his quiet companions during the rare moments of respite in his demanding schedule. Yet the journey wasn't always comfortable. Elon's rational mind constantly pushed back, reminding him of the skepticism that had long guided him successfully. He wondered if this new path might compromise the objectivity and bold innovation that defined his life. But a deeper force urged him forward, a silent encouragement echoing the Pope's words and X's genuine curiosity. Meanwhile, X's questions grew bolder and more profound. He began raising topics of faith at family dinners, not confrontationally, but gently probing his parents' beliefs, fostering openness and vulnerability. His sincerity started creating ripples within their family, inviting deeper intimacy and authenticity among them all. One evening, as Elon worked late in his home office, immersed in designs for a new Mars colony prototype, he heard a soft knock at the door. Looking up, he saw X standing calmly in the doorway, clutching a book tightly to his chest. "Hey, X," Elon greeted warmly, setting down his stylus. "What's up? Can we talk?" X asked softly. "Of course," Elon replied, pulling out a chair and gesturing for X to sit beside him. X settled in, carefully placing the book on the desk. Elon noticed it was a worn copy of C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. He raised an eyebrow, surprised but intrigued. "You've been reading this?" Elon asked, gently picking up the book. X nodded slowly. "It's from the school library. I asked my teacher about faith and science, and she suggested this book." Elon flipped through the tattered pages, glancing at notes scribbled in the margins by previous readers. He set the book down softly, his gaze tender. "What do you think so far?" X hesitated, clearly grappling with the depth of his thoughts, before speaking. "He says things that make sense, Dad. He talks about how science and faith aren't really enemies but different ways of finding truth. I hadn't thought about it like that before." Elon sighed quietly, feeling a deep sense of respect for his young son. X's questions weren't just curious, they reflected a thoughtful, profound search for meaning. "That's insightful, X. Maybe there are truths we uncover through reason and science, and others we grasp through intuition or faith. They don't have to clash, they can complement each other. X seemed relieved, as if Elon's acknowledgement lifted a burden he'd been silently carrying. So you think I can believe in science and God at the same time? Elon smiled warmly, resting a comforting hand on X's shoulder. I think it's entirely possible. Maybe that's what it means to be human, to hold both and find harmony between them. X's eyes lit up with relief. Dad, I feel like talking to Pope Francis started something special. Do you think we could see him again sometime? Elon paused, reflecting. The meeting with Pope Francis had been transformative, but it also felt like a once-in-a-lifetime moment, guided by chance, or perhaps something else. I'm not sure if that'll happen soon, X, but I think we can carry his wisdom with us. Maybe what matters most isn't meeting the Pope again, but sharing the lessons he taught us. X smiled, visibly comforted by the idea. I like that. As X left the room, Elon remained at his desk, lost in thought over their conversation. He gently picked up the book X had left behind, opening to a dog-eared page marked by a previous reader. A highlighted passage caught his eye. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. Elon sat in silence, reading and rereading the line. The word struck him with surprising force, speaking directly to the restless yearning he'd felt lately, a curiosity science alone couldn't fully quench. For a man who had spent his life striving to conquer new worlds, the idea that he might be made for another world altogether resonated deeply and unexpectedly. Later that night, as Elon lay in bed, sleep eluded him. His mind kept returning to that simple yet profound line from C.S. Lewis. Was there something beyond the stars he'd spent his life reaching for? Was his relentless drive, his unending quest for meaning, actually a reflection of something greater? He recalled Pope Francis's calm, earnest voice, gently affirming that faith and reason were two sides of the same coin, both essential to understanding life's mysteries. Elon felt a powerful surge of gratitude for X, whose innocent yet bold questions had sparked this inner transformation. Eventually, Elon drifted into sleep, his dreams filled with images of Mars, the cosmos, and, surprisingly, quiet chapels bathed in soft candlelight. It was as if his subconscious was hinting at something he wasn't yet ready to fully. This concludes our narrative journey. I trust you found this gripping saga of intrigue, cutting-edge innovation, and astonishing discoveries captivating. From where are you tuning in today? I'm curious to learn which corner of the globe this tale has touched. If this escapade held your interest, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for a steady stream of compelling, mind-expanding stories just like this one. Fresh material is posted frequently, ensuring you're always in the loop for the newest spellbinding adventures. Be sure to pass this video along to your loved ones and friends. It's a great way to share positivity and insight while expanding our circle of story enthusiasts. Your encouragement is invaluable. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to welcoming you back for the next tale.